today?
I'm good, and you?
I'm great. Welcome to Media to Africa.
Yes.
It's a great pleasure meeting you today.
Mm-hmm.
We've had amazing and beautiful stuff. So happy to have you in the studio. So you were talking about yourself. I really want to know who are the founders of S.E.L.T. organization.
Well, thank you very much for having me today. It's also my pleasure to have you today, and I believe this is an opportunity for me to be able to educate our audience and then you guys here about what S.E.L.T. is.
Sure.
Actually, S.E.L.T. is an acronym meaning State of Emergency on Leadership and Terrorism.
Great.
I am not the only founder, but I am a co-founder per se.
Oh.
And right today I have the privilege of serving as the national coordinator. So S.E.L.T. actually was founded or started in 2014 in New York when I was still in college in New York. And it happened because we have a very funny story about how it started. There was a professor who, I won't mention his name here because I'm not legally permitted to do that.
I know.
He was teaching us a course about terrorism, and he made a statement. When he made that pricky statement, I was the only Africans in the class that day. So what actually happened was that I have a friend from Bangladesh, I remember, who looked at me and asked me to see, everybody's looking at me, because that statement was actually pointing to Africa. So I got a little bit disturbed, and after the class, I wanted to go and see the professor. I couldn't make it. And it happened that 3 days later, I went to his office and I asked him, why do you make this statement? I won't mention the statement here because that statement is so dangerous. I may tell you off camera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he looked at me and said, yes, for 28 years he has been lecturing. He is actually one of the consultants, security consultants in the nation.
Right.
He has intentionally been mentioning that statement to actually activate the heart of Africans in the school. But I am the first person who approached him for detail about this thing. And I was so surprised. From there, after discussing with him, he now gave me some ideas that eventually led to what we call S.E.L.T. today.
Wow.
State of Emergency on Leadership and Terrorism.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So that is a little story about S.E.L.T.
Wow, I'm really, that statement must have been a very important one.
Very important one.
And we are happy for such a statement
I
in
want
order
to tell you,
to push more Africans
yeah,
to do great things for the nation like that.
we are all hoping to achieve that.
All right, Mr. Edem. First of all, I would like to say it's a pleasure to meet you here.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, such questions like you explained was actually what inspired you into doing this, right?
Exactly.
So what exactly does S.E.L.T. do? What are you guys into?
Yeah, S.E.L.T. is actually a non-politically inclined social movement of Africans in the diaspora, in the United States of America here. And we have been legally licensed by all local and federal authority to operate in 2 objectives. So the very first objective is that we are in to rebrand and remarket the concept of Africans in the hearts and the mind of all other immigrant groups living in the United States of America.
Wow.
The reason we are doing this is because when you talk about Africa in the United States of America, what comes to mind is all about war, it's all about poverty, it's all about diseases, it's all about sicknesses and all of these things. And it's embarrassing. And this is preventing people from going to Africa for even tourism.
Right.
And then even this is affecting us. A lot of the people, you may be qualified to go to a position, but because you are from Africa, people look at you, So we believe that it is our responsibility to remarket Africa to the American community. So that is the first thing S.E.L.T. does in the United States of America. The second thing we do, which I believe is what we call it the missing link in Africa.
Okay.
It's not a practical or tangible project you can touch, but it's a project that is ideologically based, which we believe when we succeed in doing it, a lot of initiatives are going to be of success. It is all about instilling the willpower for unity of purpose. I want to repeat that again. The second objective of S.E.L.T., which we do in Africa, we want to do in Africa, is about to instill the willpower for unity of purpose among Africans and in Africa. So those are the things we do. I hope I answer your questions.
Sure. Yeah, but let me just ask you something. Like you mentioned earlier that you want to rebrand the mindset. When you talk about mindset, you're trying to rebrand the mindset of those that are not Africans or Africans, because I know that this mindset thing also happens within us Africans. You know, like so many people grew up, so many Africans grew up to know that, okay, we are of lesser value than, let me use in quote, the whites. You know, so who are you trying to rebrand? Is it the non-Africans or the Africans or both?
Both. Like, I thank you very much for that question, because a lot of Africans, you say, your life depends on how you think.
Right.
How you think determines how you behave. And your behavior ultimately affects what you become in life.
Sure.
We have a very huge business. I understand this vision to be so big that we ourselves, we need help to be doing it. But not beginning it is not an option. Somebody must begin it. And that is what we are in. We need to rebrand African first from ourselves and then go ahead and impact the people through our character and every other thing.
So the change begins with us.
Yeah, with us first. And there are a lot of people who have already changed.
Okay, that's good.
There are a lot of people who are already, and they are doing a wonderful work.
Right.
All right, Mr. Edem.
Yes.
I'm so happy with that, with the work and the passion of Togo.
I am from the Republic of Togo.
So all my the Togo people watching, they'll be so proud of you, I guess. I know to have somebody represent from a country like that is a very big thing, and the diaspora like this one. Though so many people watching now want to know, how can they be part of this art?
Oh, S.E.L.T. Incorporated, like I said before, is a diaspora movement. And I've already told us the objectives. If you are living in the United States of America and you think you have an idea, you have a passion to be able to be part of this vision, why not come? Right now, before I go, I may give you my email or the S.E.L.T. email, where people who are interested, they can write to us. And right now we are working to be meeting almost on monthly or weekly basis at the African Union Embassy in Washington DC, a central place where everybody can come. The ambassador the ambassador over there is a wonderful lady. The other time we were at the World Bank spring meeting, and that lady proved to us how useful she is to Africa.
Right.
So she has made available that place for anything Africa, and we believe we are working to be meeting over there, and anybody who is in the United States of America and want to be useful to this vision will be welcome.
Oh, great. Yeah. So with this S.E.L.T. organization, what have you guys done, to be precisely, in Africa in order to develop develop and contribute in the development of Africa? What have you guys done?
Wonderful questions. Thank you very much for that question. You see, when you want to solve a problem, you have to make sure you are not part of the problem.
Of course. I like that.
Sure.
From our researches for over 50 years now, since a lot of countries in Africa got their independence, there are thousands and thousands of initiatives.
Sure.
People are doing one thing or another. Despite all of these moves, the poverty, the disease, some of the things that we don't want to continue to conceptually like growing.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right now, just this year, I read a very unfortunate news that the most powerful country in Africa, that is Nigeria, has just succeeded to pass India in poverty rating. In other words, the poor people in Nigeria, which has a population of almost 180 million, the poor people there has now passed the number of poor people in India, which has over 1 billion population. That is catastrophic. As at last year, June, from our researches, we have discovered that there are 10,972 foreign initiatives to help Africa.
Sure.
Despite all of these foreign initiatives, Africa still remains in the low cadre. So we are not just jumping into, oh, let's go and do something. It is easy to raise money and go and build, that is the easiest thing. But we took time for over 3 years to undertake a comprehensive and a systematic research to actually discover why is it that we are doing our best, but our best continue not to solve the problem.
You're right.
And we have come to discover that actually what you can see in other nations, that has actually been silently in their hearts and their character, deeply entrenched in their character, that is responsible for everything in the advanced nations, is what is lacking in Africa. When you go to Europe, majority of the countries in Europe, when you go to now in some countries in the Middle East, like Arab nations, Japan, South Korea, United States where we live, you see all of these things. It is called the willpower for unity of purpose.
Oh, great.
This willpower for unity of purpose is a kind of non-palpable force that we need in Africa. We call it the missing link. The absence of it is responsible for majority of the short success. You begin something good, after some years you see it then. We have some leaders in Africa who actually have good intention. But the fact is that the difficult reality in the 21st century is that it is not enough to mean well for your nation. You won't succeed. You have to have the people.
Yeah.
So we believe the contribution we are going to do right now is to find possible way of instilling this value that is completely absent in our life.
Okay.
So that we believe by the time we succeed to do that, any other thing you want to do in Africa can easily succeed.
All right.
So that's the project right now. So we have conceptualized a project called the Pan-African In-Depth Reconciliation Project.
Okay.
The thing in Africa is that the things that are dividing us are more than the things that are uniting us. Even democracy is now destroying Africa. Democracy that has succeeded to change other nations is now destroying Africa.
Oh, wow.
We are in a period we call the collapse of democracy.
Oh.
When the entire concept of democracy has been reduced to the quest for power. Right now there is a election in there are elections in some African countries. When you go to such countries today, the pressure, the politics is so heat up. But we don't have to do that. So right now the project we are planning in Africa is this, is the in-depth reconciliation project. It's going to be in the form of campaign. Campaign is a very hard thing to do, but we will do it. The option, one thing we cannot do is to let it. If we don't do it, it will remain there forever. Even 1,000 years, we will continue to be where we are. So I hope I kind of answered your question.
Oh, no, sure.
I might have to cut in a little bit and take you backward.
Okay.
Before we talk about the Pan-African you mentioned right now, you mentioned earlier that a lot of foreign initiatives have been introduced to Africa, and they haven't really, succeeded in achieving their goals. Now we have S.E.L.T. So you want to tell us what is this difference? What is S.E.L.T. about to do that is going to make it different from other initiatives to get a positive response? Like, people want to know, are we the problem? Because we've had a lot of initiatives coming to us. So are we the one rejecting these people, or they've not been doing the right thing? So what is S.E.L.T. going to do that will be different from others?
Good. Others depends heavily on money
Okay.
and practical or physical projects. For instance, you raise money here, you go and you give to the poor people. And you raise money here, you go and you build road. Our leaders come over every now and then. They travel abroad and they sign what is called bilateral or trilateral or whatever agreement. They borrow a lot of money,
Right.
and they go for solid infrastructure like maybe road and everything. So, but these things, they are all good. We need to encourage people to do it. But throughout our research, we have discovered that no nation on earth has really become truly economically independent by all these petty things. They just there to solve temporal problems.
Okay.
So what the project we are now initiating in Africa is going to be, like I call it, the missing link. What is a missing link? A missing link is something that is absent, and which absence continue to cause other problems. It's like you want to cook soup and you have all the ingredients but you don't have water. Can you imagine that soup? You understand?
There's no soup.
There is no soup.
Yeah.
That is what is happening to Africa. Now, I want to give a pictorial representation so that our audience will be able to understand what this project is all about, the in-depth Pan-African Reconciliation Project. You see, the case of Africa is much like a person, maybe, who is thirsty, very thirsty, and he knows that water comes from the sky when it is raining. And this person finds him or herself, standing in a river, a flowing river that is drinkable, that's potable. That the water can be drunk and everything. He's standing in the river, but he's very thirsty. So, but because of his knowledge that water formed from the sky, that person is standing in the river with his hands raised, looking at the sky and praying fervently that rain should fall so that you'll be able to get some on his hand and be able to drink. Not knowing that actually you are standing in a river that is flowing. It's just a matter of understanding that, oh, the river is flowing, I can drink this water, and to be able to bend down and drink. But we are there, not knowing. So when the water falls, he gets it, his water. Oh, this is water, thank God. Now, when the water takes a lot of times before falling again, all his mind is now, oh, since this water is not coming, let me rather go to the sky so that I will be having water every time. That is what is happening to Africa. We are in wealth, but we don't even see it. This project we are initiating is simply to help us understand this thing so that we bend down and drink the water.
Okay. Means we can, what you're just trying to say is that we have everything, we should know that we have
Of
it.
course.
And then we use it for ourselves rather than expecting others, expecting too much from others, and when it's not there, we run to others to get it.
There is nothing we're going to get from others that will change our situation.
You're right.
No nation has ever been built because they went for loan. You see, I gave you another example. You see, this country we are living, the United States of America,
Sure.
is the most powerful country in America. I've been living in this country for years. I'm a citizen.
Sure.
And one of the things I have discovered in this nation is that their secret is not even the wealth, the money they have. Their secret is not the economy. The secret of the United States is that thing I told you, the will power for unity of purpose. Such that even if the entire economy of US collapses today, give them 3 years, they will bring it back to life. Contrary to Africa, something subconsciously tells us that what we need is money. And that is the cause. What we need is not really money. We need money. But the principal thing we need is not money.
Right.
Such that when you Right now, California as a state in the United States,
Sure.
the economy of California is more powerful than entire Africa economy. Now, if we decide today to take everybody in the US to Africa and everybody in Africa to the United States of America, I bet you if we don't have that character, if we don't have that thing we are now working to instill in ourselves in Africa, in 10 years, we will damage this country and be looking for how to go back to America. Why? The problem is that unseen, that silent force that built a nation is absent.
Okay. That's great.
Great. So, right now, what makes the project the most important in Africa?
Yes, we believe this project is the most important. There are a lot of good projects that we are even involved in them already.
Sure.
I'm involved in a lot of projects. But there is no project as at now, based on the result we got from our researches, that is more important than this project. I don't know. I'm a Christian and I read the Bible.
Beautiful.
One thing that makes me happy in the Bible is that they always say that the spiritual controls the physical.
That's what it is.
The spiritual controlling the physical, the most important thing that we need are not seen.
I'm not saying.
But Africa, we have been historically conditioned to think that our solution is what we can see. There are a lot of people who are even listening to me now. This project doesn't even make sense to them.
You're right.
Because we are all victims of that historical conditioning. What changes a nation is first conceptual, character. Whatever we can do to instill this character in us so that it will be easy for us to come quickly to unity of purpose and achieve goals.
You're right.
That is the only thing we can do. So it's like taking the wrong drug, medication for instance, and a time comes and then by the time you begin to take the right medication, you discover that wow, things will begin to change.
Right.
Until Africans will have that attitude to begin to quickly come together for a purpose, no way. We are not going to really achieve anything.
You're right.
Yes. So we call this project the most important project of the century.
Great.
We say that with pride.
That's a big one.
Because it is not there in this century. There is not going to be a project that is going to be as valuable as this that we are talking about.
Great. That's a wonderful plan. I'm really happy and honored to be with you with such a heavy and very important strategy and plan. But how do you plan to implement these plans in Africa?
Yes. Good question. Thank you for that question.
Yeah.
To implement this project in Africa is going to take some steps.
Sure.
Number one, we have started the most important steps, which has to do with the research that brought about the project itself. Number two, it is about this reconciliation project, that is Pan-African Reconciliation project, is first going to be run as if it's a campaign.
Yeah.
Now, the very first thing we have to do when we go to any nation in Africa, lobbying, meeting with those that matter,
Sure.
that will first understand this project and probably even make it a national project.
Okay.
Because if you don't understand this project, it is not something a group of two people will go and do.
You're right.
So we are going to depend on lobbying a lot to be able to sell this idea to the acceptance of those that matter.
Sure.
And if any nation, we have started talking with a lot of people in Africa, and the idea is growing.
Great.
Once it is an idea that is nationally embraced, it becomes a project. And you know there are things you don't say on air quickly.
You're right.
Like once this reconciliation understanding is adopted, every other thing follow.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
Yes.
That's what we'd love to expect.
Talking about this Pan-African, is this the first major project SET is doing?
This is going to be the first and the only project we will run.
Okay.
And the success of it means Africa is healed.
Oh wow. Amen to that.
And
That's
the failure
beautiful.
of it means we will remain where we are forever.
So you were talking about this project to be one of the best in like the 21st century for Africa. So is there any time you're looking at working on this project? Because is there any time range? So how long do you think you can work on this project for Africans themselves to start seeing results on this project?
You see, like I said, thank you for that question anyway. Like I said, this is a project that has to do with an entire continent, not just a nation. We are focusing on a nation right now, even though we are speaking with other people, other nations. We are focusing on a nation right now. And what is going to happen is that when this project begins,
Sure.
when other successes are following,
Right.
this will attract other nations.
Other nations.
You see?
Yeah.
We cannot exactly tell you that, okay, this is the length of time it's going to take.
It's going to take.
Because every country has a different realities.
Right.
But avoiding it is not an option. Where we got today, it is because this idea has not been evoked for centuries. And we are mockery in the whole world right now. The entire Africa is like a mockery. Somebody must start something. And that is what we are beginning. And we believe that there are a lot of people who are interested.
No, sure.
We believe that there are a lot of intelligent, smart Africans who will jump into this,
smart,
and we work hand in hand and see where we can go.
That's beautiful. And so for a project like this, you've introduced it to some African countries. And what do you think the African governments as a whole, how are they going to embrace this project? Because like you said, it's African governments have their own mentality of leadership and
how they want to do
how they want things done. So introducing a project like this, trust me, some of them will embrace it. It's a beautiful project. Every African have the right to embrace such a beautiful project. But you know how the African government is. So how are you working on it so they can embrace it?
I will beg to differ a little with you, because right now we have a new generation of leaders in Africa who believe that even their good intentions is not working.
That's good.
They know it. A lot of presidents meant well for their nation.
Oh yeah, trust me.
But I am telling you, they are frustrated. But the problem is that it cannot be politically said. So if there is a leader we approach with this brilliant idea, and for reasons I can't say, decide not to embrace it immediately, we will respectfully wait for him to do whatever he wants to do, and hoping that he succeeds. When he succeeds, we all applaud him. But when he doesn't succeed, the next leader that may come, we will also go and present the whole thing to him. But remember one thing, once this project begins to work in the nation, we will not be the one to go to the leader. They will come and we will work together hand in hand. It is not about personal ego, it is about the destiny of an entire race.
Okay, let me ask you, how old is S.E.L.T. again?
S.E.L.T. just started in 2014, and we spent almost 4 years for systematic research.
Okay, between this time frame, what are the challenges you've had so far, that you've experienced so far?
Well, I don't really call them challenges, because there is nothing you do that you will not face some hindrances. Okay. So I can answer you, there's no challenge. Okay. That doesn't mean that everything is smooth, but I look at them as an opportunity.
No, you're right. You're right. With such a project, everything is an opportunity. Yeah. So we talk on African, how to embed these projects in Africa. Like you said, there are a lot of initiatives that has been brought to Africa, and a lot of them has failed.
Not failed per se, but what I call limited success.
Yeah, limited success. Okay, let's push it to that. Yeah, because I know of a lot of incentives sent down to Africa that it doesn't still stop the women from childbirth problems. It doesn't stop a lot of stuff is still going on, even though we have these great incentives going on, which is that's why I say S.E.L.T. is going to be a great savior for Africa. Right. So right now we're talking about the reconciliation of Africans with the S.E.L.T. So you want to use S.E.L.T., you talk about the Pan-African. So one of its objectives first is to bring Africans together?
Of course. Africans together, not as if we want to make Africans a country. No.
Okay.
We don't need an African as a country. But we can have what is called conceptual unity.
Okay.
Conceptual unity is a kind of unity you come together to embrace to achieve success for yourself. So when we want to reconcile Africans, it's not that we are going to organize a very big meeting and then we say, hey, do you accept this reconciliation? This one did this and that is bad. No. That is not what we are going to do. It is a knowledge we are about to release into the system, and this knowledge will impact the way we think and eventually help us to understand that actually these things that we have been pursuing, we don't need to pursue them. Let's focus on this. And then another research, before I forgot, I'm going to say this thing. When we undertook our research, we found something very interesting, which we would like to share with every African. Please, I want every African to please listen to me, not to just hear me, build an opinion, and let the message go. I want you to listen to me solemnly. What is the finding we have found? Since the time of colonialism, we have since the time of colonialism, not colonialism, what am I saying? Slavery. Both the Arab slavery and then the Western slavery, down to the time of colonialism till today, everything we call corruption or whatever, all the vicissitude or challenges we have in Africa till today, all of that, when you put all of them together, whatever we have lost is not up to 1% of what remains to be gained.
Wow.
I'm going to repeat this again.
Okay.
Since the time of slavery, down to the colonialism till today, all the corruption, everything, every problem, every challenge, vicissitude we have in Africa today, when you put all of that together, that is everything we have lost in the past till today, when you put all of them together, they are not up to 1% of what remains to be exploited.
Right.
So we can allow those things, the 1%, to take us away from the 99%, or we have the option to come together in unity and see how we can, not necessarily like forgiving, how we can work together to preserve the 99% for the coming generation to enjoy life.
Right.
So that's one of the researches we found. Okay. So this issue of reconciliation is mandatory to any soul living in Africa.
Great. So right now we are going, we talk on most of the part, we talk on the rulers, the leaders in Africa, the government in Africa. We haven't touched the youth. So what does S.E.L.T. have in store for the youth?
Yes.
Because most watching the youth.
Right.
Yes. You are also a young person. I think I'm also a youth, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Well, actually, the youth of Africa are the most important aspect of this project.
Very important.
Our focus, 98% of our focus is on the youth.
Right.
Because they represent the future of this nation, this continent. The very first thing I would like to share with my brothers and sisters is that there is hope for Africa.
There's always hope.
Oh my God. There is hope for Africa. But what we must avoid is to allow the 1% that we have lost, I explained it earlier, to draft our attention away from the 99%. We don't have to allow that to happen. We don't have to allow that to happen. Very important. So when we are talking about reconciliation, my number one focus is the youth.
Right.
Because every leader today, after some year, after 10, 20 years, they are gone.
Right.
They are gone.
And the youth becomes the new leaders.
Yes. So, we are going to work very much with the youth. And I know that when this vision will succeed, this issue of our brothers and sisters dying every now and then in the Mediterranean Ocean because they want life for themselves must stop.
Oh yeah, you have to.
We are living in the West. The kind of life we are living here may be slightly better, but does not warrant you to. Whenever I see this thing, I'm not able to have my peace.
I know.
And I won't totally blame them, because before I came to this country, I was also hopeless. That's the truth. So this message may also be to our leaders, I don't want to use the word ruler, those in charge of affairs in our country.
Yeah.
When the youth don't have hope,
There is no
they will do everything.
Because all of them flee away.
All of
And you
them
end
flee
up
away.
ruling nobody in the country.
A youth, people going to other country in the midst of looking for better life is a direct sign that they don't have hope. And how leadership, the very first thing about leadership is to build hope on the people. If this is happening, it's because the people don't have hope. So somewhere you are not working and you can do better. So I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. There is hope for Africa, but we have to work. We have to work, and we will achieve it. I don't see it as a possibility. Another thing is, this is not time for us to begin to castigate our leaders. No. That time has come and gone. Because what we have to achieve is far bigger than what we have lost.
You're right.
So all of this petty corruption, this one has done this and this one, we have to learn to really bring them to a stop and focus on the main thing, and we'll get there. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm glad we actually brought the youth into this, because
They are the most important
whatever
aspects.
it is we are doing and the youth are not part of it, I don't see a
Oh
future
my
in
God.
it.
Oh yeah.
I'm very glad, because S.E.L.T., according to what you just said, the primary aim is to change the mindset of the people to a positive one. And I'm glad the youth are totally part of this. But I want to ask you a question. Where do you see S.E.L.T. in the next 10 years? What positive changes do you think S.E.L.T. is going to bring, especially to the youth?
When, I don't want to use the word if, when S.E.L.T. eventually succeed to operate in Africa, we are going to see at least 60 to 70% of citizens of every nation coming together to support their governments,
Beautiful.
to achieve their aim. Right now, what is happening in Africa is that the president or the leaders, they have good ideas, but they don't even have the people to support them. And the people cannot be blamed because they don't even see the reason why they should even support them. Earlier on, I did talk about the collapse of democracy. I've said that the entire concept of democracy has been reduced to the quest for power. Now, when an election is free and fair, it is even a problem for the winner to bring the people, everybody together. You will vote for someone to be your president, but we have a problem to support them to win. Let alone a nation that has questionable election and become president. Yet people are not idiots. They won't support you. You can't have them support you. All you may end up doing is traveling every now and then and borrowing money, come and build roads, some bridges and some buildings and what I call solid infrastructure, reading big and beautiful speeches and talking big of English or French, and maybe at the end of the day when you are passing, you pass with a heavy convoy, and that is not leadership. That is not what we need in this century. What we really need is leaders that will succeed to bring people to support the good idea you have. Because no matter how brilliant your idea may be, If you don't have people to be with you, you are just making a noise. You won't succeed.
Great.
Okay, there's something else I want to say. I'm sure you must have read about other initiatives that was introduced in Africa, and you must have read about the challenges they went through, and because some of them started very strong, and right now they're not so stable.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, have you ever for once prepared your mind that stuff like this might happen to self, like stumbling blocks along the road? Like, how much are you prepared to meet this? Because it's gonna come.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about Africa, we're talking about changing the mindset of the Africans, the youth, the economy, and the leaders, and all that. So, how do you think you're gonna penetrate without having these stumbling blocks along the way? Because it's gonna come. How much prepared are you?
Thank you very much for that question. That's a very beautiful question.
Thank you.
You see, I would have been surprised if this project who started strongly are still continuing strong.
Right.
As we are standing right now, there is no project that will continue in Africa strongly, that will start strong in Africa and will continue or end strong. Why? Because of the absence of what S.E.L.T. is bringing to the country.
Okay.
You understand?
Sure.
When whatever brilliancy your project or initiative may be, if you don't have the people to actually understand it and rally around you for its success, you may start strong, but you will stop. You will fail in the on the way.
Okay.
That is what is happening in so many nations, even political projects. We have seen some nations whose president came with brilliant ideas. Brilliant idea. They started. Johnny Camp, everybody clapped for them. But when they get there, they themselves are confused. They are confused, but they can't see it politically. So this thing will continue. But why S.E.L.T. is not going to face such a problem is because we are not selling a practical project. We are selling an ideological healing to our society. I earlier on used the word missing link. I hope you understand missing link.
Yep.
Yeah.
When you are drawing, you are doing something, they say missing link. That means something is on somewhere. The absence of it is causing
Other
problems. What S.E.L.T. is actually doing is to take what is absence, which is responsible for this, what I call short successes. That is what we are bringing. It's so vital, so important.
Okay,
Yeah.
please let me just come in. You said S.E.L.T. is not going to face these problems. Are you trying to say that you don't see challenges, you don't see stumbling blocks, or that S.E.L.T. has a way to overcome this?
Yes, the people we may have challenge with are people who may have other reasons not to understand this thing I'm talking about. Honestly, you don't need to be too intelligent to understand what I'm talking about. Any leader in Africa, any leader in any African country that doesn't understand that, oh, I have a good idea, but I am not achieving the best success. And we are telling you that the reason you are not achieving the best success is because of the absence of this idea we're talking about. Then something is wrong somewhere, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You understand? Something is wrong somewhere. I have a lot of leaders, I know a lot of leaders who even complain. They don't say a lot of things politically, but they feel it.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Edem.
Yes.
We are so happy. We're so honored.
Right.
Again, I'm Ruth. It's your girl Ruth back in the Media to Africa studio. We are so happy.
And I am Winnie
Okay.
here in Media to Africa, and I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you.
And I have learned so much, and I know the viewers have also learned so much.
Awesome.
And
I
let
hope
me
so.
also say, you said it earlier that this is open to people who wants to be
Yeah.
part of it. And I guess the email.
Yeah,
is gonna
I can
be
even
on
spell the
screen.
email. The
Yes.
email is S.E.L.T. As S.E.L.T. at SELTUSA.com. Anybody who sent us an email, we reply immediately. We let you know the programs, how we meet here, how we share ideas, and how we are planning to take the campaign to Africa.
Okay.
So my advice or my suggestion to all of our brothers living in the United States here is that the best thing our continent needs is not necessarily money,
Right.
because we have enough of it. The best thing we need in Africa is not necessarily even education. There are powerful, very smart people who are getting good education in Africa. But what we need is what other nations have succeeded to take away from US to their country. Countries like South Korea, countries like even China, countries like all the Arab countries, Dubai, all of these things. They didn't take necessarily physical thing back home. But the best thing they take is that thing we are taking, that character of the willpower for unity of purpose. There are a lot of things we have to do to be able to entrench that in our attitude. And the time to start is now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you've heard from the horse's mouth himself, and I'm sure the email address is going to pop up on the screen.
Yeah.
So if you have questions or comments or contributions, you can just forward those to the email, and he's going to be glad to respond to you. And we know we have a lot of Africans that are, they have this creativity. We are known for creativity and this initiative to support what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you can also write him and see how you're going to be a part of this, because together we're going to make greater things. So you have one last word for the youth or for the viewers watching?
Yes, I have a last word, like I said earlier on. Number one, to our leaders. Well, in case any of our leaders is watching presently, all I want to let you know is, when we talk about Africa, it is not about personal ego.
Right.
Your time will come and go. We all know that you are doing your best, and we appreciate you. But the truth is that your best is not achieving the result for the majority. You are well intentioned. So we are actually inviting you to help us embrace these projects and see what will happen to our nations in the next 3 to 5 years. To the youth, I told you earlier on, there is hope for us. Today may be hard, but we will get there. To the diaspora, brothers and sisters, let's forget this issue of from Cameroon, and from Togo, and from Nigeria. That is an historical accident we had. Today, so many people don't even know that Africa was sliced like bread. 1885, the Conference of Berlin. So many people don't know. They think the borders in Africa are godly designed. No, it's humanly designed. Our problem and vicissitude started 1884, the 1884 conference, the Berlin conference. That is where our problem started. So when I look at you, you are from where?
Cameroon.
Cameroon, I don't see Cameroon. I see my African sister.
Right.
So that is what we are going to do. Until we have that idea, forget about it. We will continue fighting ourselves in ignorance. So I thank you all for listening to me today. Warm up, there is work to be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching, and we truly appreciate. Thank you, Mr. Edem. Thank
Welcome.
you, Winnie.
Thank you.
We are so happy, and we will give you. Right now, we'll say bye-bye to you guys. And again, we are at Media to Africa Studio, so keep watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.